is more important, the £50 million or keeping that player? Like with Granit Xhaka, for example, if it was like the 10 million reported earlier on in the summer, I'd have just kept him because I think, well, for me, if we can
more
keep
value in him staying in it
around, there's more value in him staying for a year for 10 million. If we're getting 21 million, okay, well then we
someone 31 in 2 months' time. It's good for all parties. He gets a 5-year deal over there. He's got a year left on his deal at Arsenal. It makes sense. It makes sense. You're right.
I think with Balogun, I'd say probably get him into pre-season, see what he's about. I think he's probably a little bit too similar to Jesus for me. I think from a first team perspective,
that's my issue as well. I want a more physical man.
I want an Osimhen. I want a Kane. I want a Haaland. You know, someone in that profile of Benjamin Sesko, Højlund. They're not all the same players, but you know they're similar-ish in that
sort of emerging sort of striker sort of thing,
line leading kind of number 9s. So I think we need that. I don't think we need a Balogun, but you know, let's see what he's about. And then if we get a good offer for him, sell him. And if not, then you can, you know, like it's a tricky one because as I said, it's this mentality shift where I think a lot of the reason people are saying keep Balogun around is because
he's a shiny new toy, man.
Yeah, and he's an academy kid. And I think people are going, oh, you know, he's one of ours and he's whatever. No. Like, if we want to compete with them, the Smith-Rowes, the Vieiras, the Balagans, the whoever, anyone.
Don't throw Smith-Rowe in there with them, man.
No.
Let's not forget double figures, number 10. He ran, so a lot of these guys could walk. I felt personally attached with that one. Get your Smith-Rowe stocks, people. He's back next year, man. But you're right on the series.
No one is safe.
No one is safe.
Look, if we could improve on Bukayo Saka, I would want to improve on Bukayo Saka. We can't. He's one of the best right wingers in the world. He's possibly the best
in the world. Not bad for a left back, eh?
Exactly. He might be better than Brandon Williams. Hard to say. If we can improve on William Saliba, let's do it. But I don't think we can at that age, at that time. So every single person that we look at, we've got to say, okay, are they improvable bond? Doesn't matter if they can stick around and do cow tricks, as Roy Keane says. I keep saying, it doesn't matter what they do, get in the Gunnosaurus costume, whatever. If we can get a better player for them for a good price, do it. That's what I say. So, and we get attached to players and ideas. And this is the thing. We're Arsenal. We don't want to become this absolutely ruthless club. Like, for example, the El Neni thing. I love that. I love that we go, no, you've been a servant to us. We're going to support you through your recovery and get you on your way, and therefore you get an extra year. A lot of clubs wouldn't do that. I'd never want us to become that club, but I also want us to be
case by case basis for me personally.
I also want us to become the club with a big up. I want us to become the club with Smith-Rowes, with Vieiras going. You guys have got 6 months.
Stop throwing him into that, man. Like, sorry. Did you say Fabio Vieira? Stop throwing him into that, man.
No, but this is the thing. This is the thing.
You're right.
We'll all be complaining at the end of the year if we don't win. You know, not all. Some people will be complaining if we didn't win the Premier League, if we didn't win the something in the next couple of years. But the same people go, no, don't sell Smith-Rowe. Don't you? I'm saying.
But that's what I was saying. That's what I was saying at the start, though. That's what I was saying at the start. Is the very people that say these things are the first to turn on them. For me, if Smith-Rowe cannot stay fit and obviously be available, then we need to rework it because, again, it's now harming your process. Hopefully with the surgery, I know you've seen all the comments around his surgery and his groin and painkillers. Hopefully there's something done in that regards, if I'm completely honest. But you're right. And even with Balogun, if we flipped it and Eddie was the one at Rems and Balogun was doing exactly what Eddie did here, the language would change. Now, for what it's worth, I think Balogun has a higher ceiling than Eddie. I think he's got a bit more about him. Like you, I'd like to see the rule ran round him at pre-season, but we don't know if he's able to do things, and not everyone can get chances, and obviously only a certain amount of players can start, only a certain amount of attacking players can be on the bench. So a bit indirectly, whether you're a 10, an 8, a winger or whatever, you're all kind of fighting with each other because you're either tempting Arteta to change his system or showing him that you should be available. I do also think we get hung up on things because if we want to challenge for everything, we need a squad. And if nothing worse, I can't verify Fabio Vieira, but the Smith-Rowes, the Tienis, the Tomiyasus, assuming they stay, nothing worse. There's some quality squad players to have, really. Whether they're happy with that is down to them and down to them to talk to their agents to either leave the club or force Arteta's hands to change things. So you're right. Kind of to wrap this up, though, I've got 4 questions from my subscribers. The first thing would be from Apollo. He said for you, do we miss the days where we only know about signings when they're actually signed, in brackets Ozil 2014?
I want it to be an Mbappe question.
Scared.
Yeah. But I mean, it's kind of, it's like when you were in 2014, you wanted to know about the signings. So it's like, it's the modern world we live in. Ultimately, when there's a bit of money to be made, people will do it, and there's that capitalism seeps into everything. There will always be the tendrils if there's a little bit of money, and there's the transfer market is a market and is a chance to make money within itself. Fabrizio Romano, I mean, perfect example of a guy who is he's a celebrity sort of from knowing about transfers, which shouldn't be the case, but there's an excitement, there's a fervor there, so he can make money, streams and profits and whatever. So I don't know. It's just a natural extension of the market, I think. And as much as I would love to, wake up to a press conference and read in the newspaper that Sol Campbell's signed for Arsenal, we don't live in that world anymore. And if you do, then go live in a cabin in the woods if you want to. Like, it's up to you.
See, for me now, I remember when it was on teletext or, like you said, the newspaper. Like, I remember my neighbor showing me Thierry Henry in the Barcelona presentation and just crying my eyes out. But I would say it's a good thing, actually, man, is that, obviously it's a bit weird now. People are tracking flights, looking at gardens and all sorts of crazy stuff. And we do live in a day and age of everyone's in the know, better yet, misinformation. But I wouldn't say we miss those days, man. I think it adds to the excitement, really and truly. Not even just that, but like, culture is changing and things like that. My issue probably is more the young players that we're finding out about 15, 14, 16-year-olds. I think that stuff's a bit crazy, but fair enough. Next question.
Just on that, by the way, I just
Go
wanted
on.
to say you're bang on. Like the I can never say his name.
Ethan, as I call him too. As I call him Ethan. Yeah. Big him up.
Is it Nwaneri or Nyanweri?
I think it's Nwaneri. I can't pronounce it. I mean, no disrespect in his name. I need to hear a commentator say that. But lovely to see he's committed his future for what he's worth.
100%. But like, he's a child. He's literally a child. And
the young man, yeah. Like
some of the stuff I've seen on social media about him, about his character and whatever, like, he is a child.
It's crazy. Even with Balogun, people are acting like they know the guy and things like that, and getting 2 and 2 and getting 5. Like, being a footballer and dealing with social media is absolutely crazy. Next one would be, seems like PSG is going to have to sell Mbappe. This will mean Real Madrid have to raise funds to bid for Mbappe. Not sure about that. Do we see Tchouaméni coming in, and what does he bring to the table, especially with Rice also coming? Can both play? I think both can play. I think, if we got both of them, it'd be great physicality. For what it's worth, don't buy that. I don't buy that Real Madrid have to sell to get Mbappe, and I don't buy that Tchouaméni is leaving. I'd love to be proven wrong, definitely where Arsenal's concerned, so I can answer that. Where do you stand on that?
I don't know. I don't know Madrid very well. I think, I mean, my amateur opinion, I think, on this is that there's got to be an opportunity there, surely. If they are signing Mbappe, fine. But I look at that midfield and I look at spinning top Ceballos. I look at
Beyblade.
The Beyblade. I look at Tchouaméni, Ceballos, Camavinga, Modric, Cruz. They've just signed
Valverde, Bellingham.
Arda guy, Bellingham. I
don't know if you said Camavinga.
They got that Brahim Diaz guy who
plays out wide. Yeah,
winger. He's more of a winger, but he can play inside. So
Arda Güler's just signed as well.
Yeah, so
we get all the hype for our youth rebuild. Real Madrid, like, it's crazy, and they just signed Tchouaméni last year for what it's worth as well, didn't they?
I think so. There's got to be something in there we can do. I still believe towards the end of the window there's something we can do in midfield, especially if Partey goes. I think at the moment I'd be okay. I think there's a lot of depth in the positions, but I still think there's something. I wonder, maybe something we could do, especially if Partey goes. So who knows? Who knows?
You're right in that regards. And that's why it's great to do the bulk of your business early, because as you know, some players that were dead set and staying at their clubs are going to be available. Some players that were going to stay are now going to leave. You never know what's going to happen. Some players, they might want to stay at their club and their hands are being forced. As crazy as it is, we're still very early in the transfer market. So again, I echo your thoughts. And for those of you who are not listening, we're not saying we'd love to be wrong, but we're not saying we're going to sign Frankie de Jong, Tchouaméni, and Mbappe off these guys we're linked with. But something could happen, especially if we can focus on some outgoings. But for me, it's going to probably take at least 100 million euros to get a conversation started, because that's what they spent on him. So who knows? He should have been at the Emirates from when he was at Bordeaux. And next question would be, we can skip out one question because they've kind of just tied into the Tchouaméni stuff. But this would be a fantastic way to end it. Do you think that publishing a player's earnings puts a target on their back? In my opinion, publicly announcing something that doesn't need to be made public places unnecessary pressure on players, whether justified or not. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. Where are you at with that?
Good question.
Cool. I got muted there. Shout out Richard for that question.
Yeah, good question. I think possibly, but I also think like how are you going? I suppose what it is this. This is a fancy term, sublimation. There you go, it's a psychology term.
Sound like you went private school or something there, man.
I did not. And essentially what it means is negative thoughts or feelings, or even necessarily positive, whatever. But like if you've had a really hard day at work and you come home and you can shout at the television at the football, you're like, you bloody idiot, whatever. And it's
You're
like
projecting kind of thing, man.
Yeah, you're projecting. You're getting that emotion out. You're essentially, it's called sublimating your emotion through something more socially acceptable, more positive. That's what it means. And football is so emotive because of that reason. It's such
it has grown